Are you there, audience? It's us, the broadcast with Amanda, Shandy, and Colleen. My name is Colleen.
My name is Amanda.
And I'm Shandy.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is season 7, episode 41, episode number 311.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are for maybe one of my most, I don't know, one of the episodes that I'm the most excited about.
I am so
ever.
excited.
Yeah,
I remember when it was like January, and we were like, in May, we're going to talk about this movie. And now
I
it's
remember
May.
when I first saw that it was a thing, and I was like, ah!
Also, and to do a little numbers thing, 311, almost 312. She's 11, turning
I am
12.
11 going on 12. Because my name is Margaret.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah,
Numbers.
It was all meant to be. This was all meant to be.
There we are. Oh my God. Very, very excited to talk about this movie and book. I waited until the last minute, of course, but I was always going to wait to the last minute. I just got very, very lucky that I was able to see it yesterday afternoon. And then
Perfect.
I read the book this morning.
Oh my God.
Well,
Oh
I
my
stayed
God.
up late last night. Actually, I stayed up till like midnight setting posts for Geek Dad Life to go up in the morning. So I would have the content would go up pre-scheduled, and I was like, all right, Colleen, you have 2 hours and you have to read the fuck out of this book.
That's
So-
amazing. It's taken me 5 days.
I got a lot of it done. Well, I've also been reading a lot lately. Like I've tried to make Sundays my reading days. So I just
that's
didn't.
nice.
So I feel like I've gotten quicker at reading. But anyway, I got most of it done, and then I had at one point to stop to go to Costco to get gas, because now I do that during the week when there's less people. And
Smart.
I was like, you know what, Colin, you've got like 25 pages left. I'm sure you can knock this out in the gas line.
Nice.
Also, very like apropos. It's like, what is this, 1970 on the gas line?
I It was so
Man.
funny.
Man,
I was talking to my grandma when I
the more
pulled
things
up.
change, the more they say the same.
Right? I was talking to my grandma when I pulled up, and I was like, okay, Grandma, well, I'm actually here to get gas at Costco. It's 30 cents cheaper than it was a week ago. Also, I've got to go read a book now that I'm parked. She was like, what? And I was like, don't worry about it.
Nope.
It's about a girl, gets her period. It's fine.
Oh, I'm sure. My grandma was a teacher's aide for like 30 years. I'm sure she, in the like.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sure she is aware of this book, if have not read it multiple times herself.
Exactly. She's read, I know she's read the Summer Sisters book. I know
Oh,
she's
that's
read,
Oh, I love that book.
she had that out on her like coffee table stuff, around the time when it came out for a long time, and I've seen her read it, so I know
That book
she's
is real
definitely read.
trashy. That book is pretty trashy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
So
sex in that book. I think that's awesome that your grandma just put it right out there on the coffee table.
yeah, well,
At me, folk. It's Judy Blume.
I'm assuming she loved it. I don't know though, but I know she had it though, so I know she's read it. I'm sure she's read other books. I mean, other Judy Blume books. I'm sure. What year did I actually meant to look up? What year?
1970.
1970 was first printed.
Yes.
Okay, because I know
Whenever
they
I
talked
read a
about
new
it.
book, I've been into. I like to read the copyright. I'm just curious.
Yes. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and it's just wild because, I mean, thinking about what's happened with abortion in that time is kind of whiplash-tastic. But it's like, I think this book, like, it's still fucking relevant.
Well,
and that's the most amazing thing. It does not feel. There's one thing that's changed in the book that I can remember from the time that I read it as a kid. But other than that, like, it is still relevant.
What's the thing that you're thinking of? Because I wonder is the thing I'm thinking of.
Okay, so I remember, and again, this is my memories as a kid. I can't for the life of me remember. I think I read
Was
this
it the belts?
Yes.
Okay,
I read this before I got my period.
Yes.
And I remember the belts, and I remember like, okay, so there's these like belts that you have. There's this whole like get up that you have to wear when you get your period. And then when I got my period, it was so much easier. Like you just put a pad in your underwear. And I remember being like, what the fuck? And then when I was older, being like, oh, well, that's because it was the fucking 1970s. Shit's changed. And
Yes.
then in
Okay.
the book,
I
'cause
had
I
that
ordered
thought too.
this.
So,
Interesting.
Amanda.
Yeah.
Let me. So, I have vivid memories of this too from when I first read it in middle school or whatever year it was, where they actually talked about practicing with the like menstrual belts.
It was like a
And
whole thing.
it was like a whole thing. And when it wasn't in, because I have this edition, which is the one that's in the documentary. Actually, I watched
nice.
Judy Blume Forever. It's
Oh,
very charming.
Mine's the same but pink.
Oh, you do,
nice.
but it's like, oh my god,
It's really nice. It's kind of leather bound, and like the pages are like really thick and silky.
The pages of mine are so thick too. I was so thrown off multiple times today. Flipping pages. I kept like thinking had like multiple pages at once.
Yeah, it's got like a real like diary, like moleskin vibe to it. That's very nice.
And mine's like an in-betweener because I know it's not the original version that was published because I do remember the belts and it's not in here, but I probably got this like 15-ish years ago, and it's just like a normal paperback.
Yeah.
But it's
What's the copyright on yours? Because this is a 2014 reprint. It says.
Yeah, let me see mine.
2014. Oh,
that's when the updated copyright. Let me double check that actually before I just spout.
April 2014.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So mine too.
Mine's July 1986. So then which is weird because I certainly read it before 1986 or after. Sorry,
I was a genius. I was reading. I was reading books at 3 years old.
But I guess my library must have had like maybe the OG version.
The copy that I had wasn't so. In the documentary they showed the original cover, and that's not the one I had, where she's like, I think like it's a cartoon figure and she's blonde. I think that's what it was. I had the one that must have been after that, and it's where it was very Babysitter's Club style, where she's like sitting there with her mom in the front. I think I know
like
it's
this kind of thing going on.
No,
I mean not this cover, but like similar style.
Yeah, that's some sweet early 90s geared towards suburban preteen girls.
For listeners at home, I'm showing Just As Long As We're Together, which was also one of my other favorite books by her. And and when you said, Colleen, when you said Babysitter's Club, that made me think. I mean, I feel like this has a Babysitter's Club vibe to it on this cover. But this one is from copyright 1986. This one was printed in 1994. So yeah. 1990s.
Wow. Okay,
I'm familiar with that one.
I loved the shit out of it. There's so many Judy Blume books, and I think there's like a lot that I haven't actually read, but there's a few that I was like obsessed with. And this one I used to read like every year. I fucking love it.
I just texted you guys the original cover. That's not the one I had, but that's the one that I believe is the original cover.
Okay, I don't think I'm gonna remember.
I've never seen that. That's very pretty.
Yeah.
I've never seen that either. And Shandy, until I saw it on the documentary, I did not remember which one I had either. I still
don't remember because I didn't have a copy when I was a kid. I just checked it out of the library, so I don't remember. I remember the cover of Forever that I have, which is not this cover.
Wait, you have Forever? I don't have Forever.
We had very different Judy Blume awareness levels.
Yeah. I just sent you I guess it's the 86 vintage book, which I don't know. That's not what Shandy has.
That does look very
Babysitter's Club.
It looks like it's very similar vibes.
That's
like
the one
the
that
same artist.
Yes, it must be the same artist.
It must be.
Which they recently, I sent you guys the article, I think, and asked you to put in the outline for something, maybe? Or
yes, this sounds vaguely familiar.
Shit. Where they did an interview with the artist of the Babysitter's Club books.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, how did I miss this? I did not put it in the outline. I'm sorry.
Not a problem at all. I just talked about
I didn't read it either.
So, but yeah, there's a ton of book covers. I gotta find the one at my parents' house. I know it's there. Anyway, okay, so funny, we all have different versions of the book covers. Yeah. But yes, okay. So I actually was thinking about this when they is not in the book, because I was like, when would they have even taken that out, and why would they have taken that out?
Because it doesn't fucking make sense to readers anymore. Like I do think that we should leave Margaret in the 70s, but I'm okay with that one change.
Yeah, I guess so. I couldn't remember then if it was a different book involving periods that I read, and I don't
think a different one exists.
associated it. But okay,
The whole
going
section
back,
in Borders of menstruation
Right.
books.
Right. But no, I can
Menstruation
I co-sign that. Like I specifically
okay,
remember that. And
as soon as you said one change, I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, that has to be it.
it's totally it. Yeah.
So I watched the whole documentary, which we don't, I'll just sprinkle
It's
it
so
and throw
fucking
out.
good. I have like a half
It's
an
so
hour
good.
left.
It's
But
so good.
I will
As
go
soon
back
as it
and watch
started,
that
I like
more.
almost started crying. It like
Oh.
I don't know.
I got very emotional in the beginning too, especially when she's talking about when she finally got published, all the rejection and how it
Yeah,
just made her
yeah.
angrier to keep
Yeah,
going.
Yeah.
And I was like inspired. I was like, oh my god, this documentary makes me want to go out and write a book that's gonna get banned.
Totally.
Yeah. But like, okay, there's a one of the authors. So they interview a bunch of like childhood friends and current authors of YA fiction, and one of them says that, some of the things in the books, they bring up at the end like how some of it's dated, like all the moms are stay-at-home moms, and that wouldn't be today. And Justin, what's his face? He says, her books, she didn't write them to be timeless. She wrote them to be timely. And in being timely, they actually ended up becoming timeless. And I loved that quote.
Wow, that's really profound.
That's really
great. I loved it.
And
I wrote it
really
down. I loved it so much.
Yeah.
So
that's really great.
Yeah,
I
like
love
I said,
that. But
I know you're a very busy person, Amanda, but if you ever, I listened, I was cleaning my entire downstairs of my house, and then I was like trying to shower the kids and stuff, and I had it in headphones. So I listened to a lot of it where I'm sure I missed visuals, but I wasn't able to stare at
the audio part is way more important.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's great. It's a great documentary. It's called Judy Blume Forever, and it's on Amazon Prime.
Perfect.
Super,
All
super
right.
good.
Yeah. I will check it out. Yeah.
90 minutes.
Okay, so since I know Colleen and I both read this as adolescents and Amanda didn't, so I want to know, Amanda.
Yes, I want to hear what you have to say. And then Shandy and I will talk about the kid versus adult perspective from the comparison. So what did you think reading it, the book, and then we'll talk about the movie after the book, though.
Okay. So in true Amanda style, like, couldn't get the assignment done in the correct order.
She finished reading it like 18 minutes ago, guys. And we've only been recording for 14. So
I think this like utterly worked to my favor. And I think this might be the way to go into movies based on books.
Oh, totally.
In the future. I read
about
you don't
get disappointed.
I read half the book.
Oh.
Saw the movie. Finished the book.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did, actually, just because of timing. But I had read it before, so it was not quite the same. But
so what did you think?
So I think when you think about it that way, I think I sort of come into it sort of knowing that we were doing this as not like an assignment for this conversation, but like as background for this conversation, and sort of coming into it with sort of that mindset and sort of thinking about it and sort of a grander scale. It was really interesting to go about it that way, because sort of you had enough context going into the movie that I had the basic setup, and I could start to see like immediately where they were taking the story, where they were staying like true to the canon of the book, and where they were modernizing it, and where they were playing and adapting it to the different medium, which was like sort of fun, but I was still rooted in like I knew enough of the story to pick up on all that nuance. And then it was sort of fun at like about 20 minutes in. It was like, oh, we're now officially past where I read. And now we're like just like off into a movie, and I can just like enjoy it as a movie because I no longer know what's going to happen.
Right.
And so then with all that information in mind, coming back to the book, it was really fun to see that fully realized of like where they took the story for the movie. And I sort of walked away. Well, sort of a few things. So like sort of top line, just like as a, podcaster having a conversation about this story. I think the movie adaptation was like a really smart adaptation. They knew their audience. They knew exactly who was going to want to come and see this movie. And they thought, and they made something that they thought that audience was going to enjoy and appreciate.
I didn't have any complaints about anything that was different. And I know we'll talk more about that when we talk about the movie, but there were parts of the movie that, because I wanted to read the book first and then the movie, but just didn't work out that way. But there were definitely parts of the movie that I think were really smart plot devices to do.
Right. So I think, it's like in general, when you're adapting from one medium to another, like you just have to make certain story changes just to adjust for the medium. So like adjust from a visual medium where you're sort of losing the, the writer narrator perspective. There's certain things you just have to switch to dialogue so that you get that information into the story. And like, so that I think was all really smart, but just the sort of choices they made and sort of not quite colorblind casting, but just being a little mindful of like how they could be a little more diverse without like being performative about it.
Yeah,
I mean, I think anytime you colorblind cast, like it is performative. It is just like, okay, for a modern audience, like we want to bring in some diversity, but I think there was clearly a bit of
the Babysitter's Club adaptation.
Yeah, like I think there was some general like thought and like real intention between like how they thought about that. I think
a lot
switching
of it was
some story around.
Yeah,
like it sort of made it fun.
Right.
And then to go back and read the rest of the book and sort of see like the big plot things that they sort of shifted. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like, I understand why they did that. Yeah. But I think it's also coming into it. Like I am not emotionally attached to the story. So it's like, I can sort of see it, in more, like, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but like, I'm not so attached to the original text that it's sort of like, oh, that's a fun choice to like do it that way, or like to bring the grandma in, to have both grandparents meet, because that like
I thought that was great
with the conflict and to sort of make the Nancy character more of like a big bad, like, oh, that like that ups the drama and like it like it's just clever. But and then the other side of that, like big reactions for me and the sort of just like personal, like me as a grown-ass woman going to see this movie about this book that is made for preteen girls. It's like I related to the mother and I loved how they made her a bigger character, which I think is also like intentional, knowing your audience and knowing who was coming to see this movie and like making that more of a robust character. But like I did feel myself being much more relating to that character because like that's my entry point.
We're the same age as her mom.
Right.
Her mom
at this stage in my life, like I am the mother of a daughter. I'm going to be there someday. And it's just like, man, I mean, I think this all the time, but just like, I want to be more like Rachel McAdams. I hope I'm like that.
So
when I get there.
What did you think though of the book itself? Can you understand why, like, all of us middle schoolers back then were like, oh my God, we love this book.
I think so. I mean, again, like, I'm so far removed from that. Like, so it is kind of hard to sort of rewind the clock and put yourself back into that time. Sort of like, how would me as like an 11-year-old
I was brought right back.
Received this book,
We didn't have anything like that.
Yeah.
And I think, I really did read this before I got my first period, which was also before I became an atheist. And so like the whole thing of like questioning God was like, holy fucking shit, sort of like mind blowing that a kid could do that. And also that it was in a book. It's crazy.
They talk a lot in the documentary about how her books broke barriers and really changed the way YA fiction was written, including the book Forever, which was like, she specifically wrote that book because books at the time that she was writing, that her daughter was reading them when she was 16, 17, 18 years old. Books at that time, if a girl had sex, it always automatically either resulted in her being shamed or regretting it or getting pregnant and needing to get married or needing a legal abortion, right? So like
dying.
Her daughter came to her one day and she said she used to like let her daughter, her kids read the drafts of the book. So they like there was never any secrets, there was never other like, we don't know what mommy's writing about. Like they always knew. Her mom actually, because she would type or handwrite things, and or she would type them and then like she would give them to people to make the notes. And her mom was a really good typer, so her mom would type up the final drafts to send out,
which is fascinating.
Which is fascinating
because of certain books.
Certain books like Deanie talks about masturbation, and she said that she had a closer relationship with her father growing up. Her mom was very much like, we don't talk about emotions. We don't talk about private things. We don't do that. So she's like, I can't believe I had my mom read them. And she never once ever made a comment to me about any of it.
I know, because to me, the thing that was surprising about Deanie, even more so, honestly, than the masturbation, is the relationship between the mother and the daughter, and how, like, wouldn't you, you know, I could, like, somebody like a Judy Blume, like, writing that might worry that her own mother would take that as a criticism of how she raised her, and, you know, like that's what.
And her mother never said a word.
Yeah, no, which I think is great.
Which I think is crazy and great. But, you know, because that's, you know, who we aspire to be as parents, somebody that our kids trust enough to, you know. But no, okay, so obviously this book is such a first of its kind, because so just to finish the forever thing, is that her daughter came to her and was like, hey mom, how do you feel about writing a book where teenagers do it and they don't end up regretting it or having bad consequences, where it actually ends up well for them? Like, yes. And that's why she wrote that book, because her daughter was forever. Like, give people my age a book where sex is portrayed as good. So she was like, "You got it."
I hadn't heard of that one either. I was not reading books as
oh my god, apparently. I remember going to the library, and because I read quite a few Judy Blume books, like, you know, at different stages in my life.
Yeah.
And again, I was like stuck on Just As Long As We're Together, and the sort of sequel here, See Rachel Robinson, for a really long time. Like, I read them and reread them, and then somehow at the library again, I like fell upon Forever and took it home and was like, holy fucking shit.
Because isn't there's like explicit like and
yes, I've never read anything like
it.
Yeah. Never read anything like it. It's kind of like when I was 17 or 18 and went to Y Tu Mamá También, and I was like, wow, that's the first time I've seen that on screen. It's very similar, but just a little bit younger with Judy Blume, and she was like, and she, you know, she's like a trusted. She's like, you know, I'd been through some stuff with her, like, you know, but it's great.
So this though, like she had said, and this is one of the quotes from the documentary, which I think leads into this discussion. It was very good for our discussion. Is she said, you know, it's good to know, no matter how old you are, that other people feel the same way.
100%.
I have always, that's like why I think sometimes on podcasts, you know, I'm always more open and TMI is I've always had that, also kind of like had that philosophy where it's like, I don't know, if I'm feeling it, somebody else out there is feeling it too. So let's all feel it together.
Yeah.
Yep. We're not all so unique that there's someone else out there that's going through what you're going through in some capacity.
And also, at the time that her books came out, a lot of parents or moms were still very much in, like, they were very religious. They were not as open about talking about periods and sex, or maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe just some parents weren't. But like for the people who grew up with parents who, you know, were uncomfortable broaching those subjects, or they grew up uncomfortable broaching those subjects with their parents, which I was always uncomfortable about that kind of stuff. Not my sister, though. I think I've told this story where my mom was taking my middle sister, Caitlin, to dance class. And Caitlin she was in like 5th grade. And she just started peppering her with questions about boyfriends and sex and this and that. And my mom was like, I almost crashed the fucking car. She was like, I was not expecting that, because her older one was very much not one to talk about that kind of stuff, or to feel comfortable talking about that kind of stuff. So, you know, be careful what you wish for, I guess. But, you know, just even nowadays, like, you know, where it kind of cycles, and we can go back to that, but like, it's important for kids to have things like that, because they learn from peers, they learn through literature, they seek out things that they want to know, because it's natural to be curious about it. it's kind of like when I was reading the Sweet Valley High books. That stuff I was reading that stuff when I was in like 7th grade, and a lot of that stuff was well over my maturity level. Like, I learned what rape was because Lila Fowler got raped.
Holy shit!
Yeah, don't go home.
I never read those books.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read the preteen version, like, because there's Sweet Valley.
Sweet Valley
Twins.
Junior High?
Yeah, there was like Sweet Valley High and Sweet Valley
was the Unicorn Club one.
Right. But there's Sweet Valley Twins, I guess. Yeah. And then there was Sweet Valley High was like same thing where there was like Goosebumps and Fierce Street. That was like, I think that was more where I was. I think that's why I missed all these other books.
Babysitter's Little Sister, like, and yeah, like they all had different levels of maturity. And then Sweet Valley University, like
oh my God, was there? Man,
I have like almost
give it up, huh?
I have
Sweet
a whole
Valley
bunch
Grad
of them
School
in my bookshelf right now. But no,
Sweet Valley Midlife Crisis.
That talked about stuff.
Program.
But like even Sweet Valley University, when I was older and reading those, that talked about stuff like unprotected sex and, you know, needing abortion. Maybe one of them either needed an abortion or it was like Rizzo in Grease, where you're like, why is she so concerned that she's late? Like,
oh,
no, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I feel like this kind of stuff is important to be out there. And yes, the Sweet Valley Rape book, my mom actually did look at that one. And I don't know if she was raped or he like attempted to rape her, but like my mom actually did look through that one, was like, I would feel comfortable if you could maybe wait until you were a little older to read this book. So then I would just go to the library and I would read the book in the library in between the shelves.
Nice.
Just like put it inside of a bigger book and no one
there you go.
Exactly.
But anyway, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Well, and I think like it's important for, you know, kids whose parents don't explain these things, but even if your parents do, like, to be able, you know, it's like about representation and seeing yourself represented, and like what you're saying of like just to be able to relate to another kid, even if it's a, you know, fictitious kid, to be like, okay, you know, because I think, you know, your mom telling you what it was like when she got her period, it's great, but maybe different than what it's like if your friend is telling you.
Yes, exactly.
Like, this is what happened to me, and this is how it happened. Yeah.
It's so, Amanda, you were mentioning the mom in the movie before, but as one of the big key differences I had reading it this time around was I read the mom in a totally different light. I remember the mom in my 10-year-old, 12-year-old brain being different. Like I just applied, because when, you know, you apply your own life experiences to things, maybe I applied my own mom's like tone or personality or whatever to that mom, where now I had a much just different like way. I was like, oh, the mom is not in it that much. She's, you know, she is harmless. She's not just, you know, a mom. You know what I mean? Not harmless, but like she's a minor character. I remember the mom being a much bigger character in the book when I was younger, where she's clearly not as big of a character in the actual book now. And I think that's
kind of the brilliant, I mean, there's lots of brilliant parts of the writing, but I think that's one of the brilliant parts of the structure of the book, is that like Judy Blume does such a good job of just getting into the preteen mindset that like, yeah, a preteen girl wouldn't be that like aware of like her parents' personality. Like, you know, they're your parents. Right. They're, you know, they're your mom. They're letting make you dinner, and they're there, and they're just, you know, they're there when you need them, and then occasionally take them for granted because like they're, you know, like if you have a great family structure, you take your parents for granted. Like that's just...
And then you get like embarrassed when you have to ask if you can go buy a bra.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. So like I like how the character is so like one note, because then it's like the reader can apply like their own relationship to their parental figure to it. So it's like that relationship morphs, like, yeah, I imagine as you read it in different stages of your life, and can kind of shade in what the outline she drew for you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always kind of thought Nancy was like, you know, a snobby kind of whatever. But I did like that in the end of the movie, they ended up, she and Janie, is that her name?
Janie
Janie ended up being friends with Laura.
I liked that too. I was kind of bummed when that wasn't in the book. I was like, oh, that felt really authentic to the story. Like
I couldn't remember if it was in the book or not. Yeah.
You know what? I kind of feel like, so I enjoyed it in the book. I thought that was a really fun change. Sorry, in the movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like, especially like sort of like revisiting some of Judy Blume's other stuff in what I did see of the documentary, it's sort of like, to me, it's like that kind of makes sense, because that's sort of, although I like it, I like what they did with the movie, but it sort of ties it up with a nicer bow and gives some resolution to the whole conflict, you know, with her in a way that is very like movie. And in Judy Blume's books, sometimes things don't resolve, and that's kind of life sometimes. So I can see it from both perspectives, and I can appreciate both.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
When they talk about that in the documentary too, like the book Blubber, which I'm pretty sure I read, but I don't really remember it very well.
I read it.
I don't think I read it, but I do actually like remember it being a book that existed.
Yeah.
For anybody that isn't familiar, the plot of the book is a girl who gets bullied over her weight. It doesn't have a happy ending, because in the end, doesn't she ends up kind of becoming a bit of a bully herself, and it left a lot of people feeling a little like kids feeling unnerved, because the moral of the story, it wasn't like, you know, she stood up to her bullies and then everyone was nice to her. The moral of the story was, don't be a dickhead to people. Like, like don't like, you know, just, and don't be an innocent bystander, because even the people that are there laughing at the bullies, you're just as bad, even you're not saying anything. So, you know, kind of had a really,
that's
like,
the brilliance of
moral.
Judy Blume, though, too, is to not sort of like hit you over the head with like, and now we're at the part of the book with the moral.
Yeah,
you know, which is like so American real. Usually, and
yeah,
that's
real. You know, teenage adolescence is messy.
It is.
Yes. And you can give them
in so many ways, literally, figuratively, like all the ways.
Yeah, they can handle nuance. As adults, we should be able to handle nuance. You know, it's like less and less in our society, but like that's life, and kids can also handle that and come to their own conclusions, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, she treated kids with the same respect she would treat adult writers.
Yeah.
I was very much brought back during the movie and the book to how I felt at the time period in which I did read that book. Like, I was embarrassed to get a bra. I didn't want to wear a bra. I mean, once I started wearing bras, I started my lifelong tradition of taking it off as soon as I got home.
I didn't do that for a very long time. I was fine with wearing a bra. I specifically remember when my boobs started growing just a little bit, like, you know, when you just have like that like hard spot like right in your nipple.
Yeah.
I specifically remember feeling that for the first time.
I don't remember that.
Oh, yeah. I remember, because it was like all of a sudden I was like, what is, like, this kind of hurts. And yeah, like the period stuff. Yeah. I didn't mind the bra, but the period stuff, and I remember like all the anxiety of like, when are you going to get your first period? You know, you like go to middle school and it's like, what if you're at school? Like, what, you know, so many things that could happen. I had like the best first period possible, because I was it took me
like Margaret did.
Kind of, yeah, actually very much the same. Well, very similar in any case. I was at home sick that day, and my mom was at home with me. So we were the only two people at home. And now with my adult brain, I'm like, oh, I wasn't sick. I had PMS. I probably had cramps. Like, I probably felt like shit just because my period was coming.
Yeah.
And so I was at home and it was just the two of us. And I went to the bathroom and was like, oh, I'm having my period. Thank God I'm home alone with my mom.
I believe I was in 8th grade. I was like 14. I was late.
I was early. I was technically still 11, not quite 12. A couple months away from 12.
Gotcha.
Too many hormones and too many milk.
My sisters subsequently got theirs earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
me starting late. That's one of the things my mom said when at Easter. I was like, "Am I going through menopause? Early menopause? I'm getting my period every 2 weeks." And she was like, "No, you started your period too late." Like, is that a thing?
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I don't know if that makes a difference.
No,
I wonder. I'm no doctor.
It's not like working towards retirement where you have to work a certain number of years.
Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing?
You got yours too late for it to start now. And I was
like, you're gonna have to work a few extra years there, kiddo.
No, but it was, I remember it wasn't such a big deal to me getting it that late, but I had feelings when my sisters subsequently got theirs earlier. I don't remember the exact, I'm kind of blanking on the exact years that they were.
You just maybe like helped them to sync up.
Maybe I did.
It's possible.
Pulled it out of them.
But I'm pretty, I know my middle sister got hers at an earlier age than I got mine, and I'm pretty sure my youngest sister also got hers, although I was older at the time and not paying so much attention, just,
Yeah.
Right.
But bigger thing wasn't my period. My bigger thing was being able to shave my legs. That was the thing. Yeah. Not the bra, not the period. I am Italian. I am fucking hairy. I just could not wait to be able to shave my legs.
I do remember like my aunt saying, or maybe it was my mom, I can't remember, but just kind of being like, once you start, like, then you're just shaving for the rest of your life, which technically is not true. You can stop anytime you want. But yeah. And they were kind of like, why do you want to start now? I think I got a razor, but I got an electric razor. That's what my mom got me. So I wouldn't. Oh, so I wouldn't like.
Wow, you
myself.
Fancy.
Well, I mean, it doesn't actually clean shave you. So
I don't know if I've ever used an electric
It's not.
razor.
It's super not worth it. Don't get it. It's
okay.
Yeah, it seems a little.
I won't start now.
It's not scary. I think there were concerns about me cutting myself for whatever reason, but yeah.
Which I still have a scar on my ankle. Like I took a good 5 inches.
Oh
yeah, it was long. It was like a real, because it's like my mom would use like the disposable razor, so that's then what I used. And those things,
I still use the disposable ones. I really like the ones.
They're a little risky.
Yeah. I really like the ones that they've changed names now, but it used to be like named after like Twilight characters. One was like Bella. No, there was one was like Bella, awesome. And I can't remember the other one, but it was like literally like named after Twilight characters. And I think I just got it because it was on sale. I needed something, and I was like, "Oh, I really like these." And they've since changed names, but I get the same one still, and it's been like 15 years. So.
That's really funny because if they name them after any of the vampires, I don't. It's like it draws blood. Like I don't think that's what you want to be saying about your razors. But
fun fact, guys! Amanda and I used to have shave your legs parties in college.
Yeah, I got that from summer camp. It was like a
we did. We would sit there with the shaving cream over the bathroom sinks in the communal bathrooms.
Yep.
Amanda, did you go to summer camp similar to what little Margaret went to?
No, it was just one week a summer. We couldn't afford a full summer camp.
You didn't have a Jewish grandma paying for your.
No, it did not have a wealthy.
We did
not have wealthy grandparents.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to like a week-long camp. We had these like in town half-day camps that were free, so that's what we did. It wasn't really camp; it doesn't count.
Yeah, I was a very sullen teen. It was kind of our version of mental health, and go into the woods for a week.
Yeah,
try and be less.
That always seemed so fun.
Yeah, it was a very meaningful part of my adolescence, and then into my adult life. It's nice. I went back and counseled for a long time. I think pre-podcast. I think.
Yeah.
I think I don't think there was any overlap between.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
Okay. So any last thoughts on the book? And I'm sure we'll bring more about the book into the movie as it naturally comes up. But any last thoughts though about the just specifically pertaining to the book and how awesome these pages are, because they really are.
They really are. I do have to say one thing, maybe if I can. I do love Judy Blume, but one criticism I can offer is that there is, and I think it's partially due to the times, but a preoccupation with weight that really goes through kind of like all of her books that I can think of off the top of my head.
I wonder if your edition is different, because Amanda, did you notice in ours anything really?
It's just mentioned.
Okay.
And and one of the friends has to stop doing something because she gained too much weight. Her mom.
Yeah, I just read that. It was like something about like Gretchen
here and there. And just as long as we're together, I remember specifically she's like depressed at one point. She's eating a lot and she's gaining weight, and everyone's commenting on it, and she has to like try to lose the weight. She like gets the flu, and that's how she like loses the weight, and everyone's super happy. I'm like, wow, that's not really, you know. And even in the even in the special, the Judy Blume Forever, one of her friends, when she first comes on and is like a childhood friend, and she's talking about her, and she lists off her qualities, and she says that she was so skinny.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very.
I must have missed that.
Yeah, I think that's probably something that was passed down to her from her mother, and it was the time, and it was, you know, and she is like objectively very, very, very thin, but like.
And 83.
Yeah,
oh
no,
my God,
she's 83. She talks about it.
She's a total badass, but
her dad and his family all died young of heart problems
attacks,
or something, and. Part of the reasons why she wrote so much was she wanted to get all the thoughts and ideas out of her before she died, because she thought she was going to die young like them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, also, have the record be known that I just killed a fly landed on my arm, and I have never actually hit one and actually killed it. So I'm feeling a little accomplished.
Yeah, there's been some like fruit flies that have been kind of circling because there's like a hole in this the screen in this window over here. So I've gotten very good at that. It's like I'll be here during like work meetings, and I'm like,
yeah, Jake can like catch them. I'm like, oh my God.
I'm sure my coworkers are like, is she like flamenco dancing? Like, what is she doing over there?
Okay, yeah. So sorry, I'm sorry to tangent us. Yeah, the weight thing is a little.
The weight thing, yeah. And I mean, definitely, it's like very white. Like that's kind of. Yeah. I suppose goes without saying. Although I remember for a very long time, never really like knowing like what her religious background was. And I remember like wondering if she was Jewish, because Jewish characters do tend to show up in her books like fairly regularly, which doesn't have to mean that she's Jewish, obviously. But she said in the documentary that her family's Jewish. So I was like, oh, okay, mystery solved.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also, just the themes, like the religious themes, which I guess we should talk about, are just as important, I think, as the preteen girl stuff.
Totally.
Like that's actually, when you think about how she wrote this book in the late 60s, while being a suburban housewife who wanted a career and didn't want to be a suburban housewife, and because you know that her neighborhood was probably like everybody either joins the Y or the community center.
Right.
And just to think that she put that out there, that's something that is like so incredibly like powerful in a way.
Yeah.
Because I think that her idea that God is for everyone is actually really great, because whatever deity you believe in, I've always thought that's a personal relationship between you and whatever God or gods or whatever it should be. And to like have somebody that young like put it out there in an era where people still went to church all the time or temple all the time, like it's I feel like that's even ballsier to write about somebody questioning religion, especially a character that has no religion questioning religion. I feel like that's even ballsier to put out there than even like the period stuff.
Definitely. And there is the one other thing that I'm like 99% sure of this very small change, but maybe somebody who listened and read closer than me, who's listening to this episode, or maybe you guys can either confirm this or not. But I remember in the book when she's like, I looked for you at temple, I looked for you at church, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, and she says,
why is it that I can only feel you when I'm alone? That's how it's sort of phrased in the book. And I'm 99% sure that they changed the phrasing.
In the movie.
Yeah, but in the movie, she basically says, why do I just feel like I'm alone? Or it's just me. it's sort of changed a little bit to be even
but
more
she also says the quote, why is it that I only feel you when I'm alone? She does say that in the movie.
Then I feel like there's this part where she says specifically, like, maybe I can't remember how she says it, but the idea behind it is maybe God doesn't exist, maybe it's just me.
Yes.
That is a separate that is a scene.
And that's not, and that wording is not in the book, correct?
I don't believe it is, no.
Which I thought was, and then even in the movie, she comes back around because at the very end, she, still like goes back to talking to God. But I thought that was really powerful. And I couldn't remember whether it was in the book or not. Like it stuck out to me when I was at the movie, and when I was at the movie, I hadn't gotten to that part of the book yet. So then back to the book. I think, Amanda, you're onto something with this, like, out of order, or like half.
I think I'm going to do it this way moving forward. I really
I noticed things that I didn't think anything of it because I had read the book before, but now that we're talking about it, it's like, I noticed certain things on the reread that I may not have if I had done it both in like one fell swoop.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But it's like to continue on that thought a little bit. It's just like, I very much appreciate this like non-judgmental sort of way it's framed of like just this questioning, which is just a very natural thing, whether you come down on the side of ultimately sticking with your religion or redefining religion for yourself, or deciding like it's not for you at all. Like, I think questioning it at some point in your adolescence
at this
is
age,
universal.
I think
it's universal. I think whether you admit it to yourself or not, I think everybody has a little bit of questioning and a little bit of doubt. And it's like very nice that there is a safe, non-judgmental space where you can kind of explore that. And like, I think that's really lovely.
Well, and I don't think that it like necessarily, obviously, everyone's different. It's not always at like 11, 12 years old. But there's something about that age. I think it's often 11, 12 years old. It was for me. And I mean, you can think about like, that's kind of when like Christians do communion. That's also kind of the age where Jewish kids do their bar mitzvahs. Like there is something very special about that age and the questioning, and then either coming down on the side of like reaffirming or doing something different. And doesn't mean that the rest of your life is going to be like that either. But I do think there's something very special about that age for that.
Or just everything. I think you're just starting to become more aware of the world around you. So you just start to question everything.
Yeah. You're becoming a little tiny version of what you'll become as an adult.
Yeah. It's like you're starting to have your own independent thought. Exactly. Like for realsies.
Yeah.
I like the use of with the religion. I like that she talks to God instead of it being like a plot thing where she's like writing in a diary.
Yeah, it's a fun twist and a very common trope, particularly in like YA books of just like the first person narration through like letters to someone or a diary.
Exactly.
Like, this kind
Which
of
I love me an epistolary novel. Don't get me wrong.
Is that what that's called? What a word. What a word.
I love that genre, but I agree. It's a nice twist. And I just love that in the end, because you're kind of waiting, like, what's she gonna choose? Is she gonna be Jewish? Is she gonna be Christian? Is she gonna be Catholic? And she doesn't choose, and that's great.
Yep.
And that's actually probably more realistic than her choosing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it would 100%. Be it would, it's not that it would be divisive, but she could have chosen and people could still like it. But I just love that it just leaves it open of like, first of all, you don't have to choose. Second of all, this is maybe something that will evolve throughout your life. Third of all, there's different ways of being. You don't have to be in this box or that box. It can be a non-box.
And it's also made pretty clear that her search for religion isn't that she wants to find a faith. It's because she has a faith. I mean, she talks to God. It's that she wants to fit in with everybody else.
Yeah.
And then realizes that she can still fit in and doesn't have to go to the Y or the community center.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, as far as the movie goes, I think we all liked it. Safe to say?
I loved it so much. I want to report. So I had just assumed, and this is why I never make assumptions.
Okay.
But I had just assumed that like I would be doing this movie solo. Like Franck is very cool and open-minded, but I just like, for whatever reason, I was like, 12-year-old girl gets her period. Like, I just sort of assumed that he wouldn't be interested.
Yeah.
Which
No,
is
I get it.
Which is bad on me. I showed him the trailer and he was like, no, that looks cool. Like, let's go watch. And he really, really liked it. And he said he like got emotional at the end when she got her period with her mom and stuff. And I mean, Franck doesn't cry at movies. Like, he's not, I don't know if he actually cried, but he did say he got, you know, a little teary-eyed. He was emotional. So just saying, like,
I cried.
Oh yes. Yes.
I cried and I didn't even want my period. I was just so happy for her at the end. But like, as I was wiping my, I'm used to the Marvel movies where like, you know, you've got like 15 minutes of credits to like wipe your eyes, but like the lights went up right away. So there were like tears. So I'm like wiping my eyes and I'm walking down the aisle and like, I'm still teary eyed. And it was me, this older gentleman who was just there eating his popcorn, watching the movie by himself at the other end of the row. And then like all the other rows were, you know, filled up with like 5-6 people. Good 3 or 4 rows though. So there was probably a good 30 people in the movie with me. And it was just like all like, you know, old ladies. And one of them like looks at me as I'm walking down and I'm like, I have tears. And she just goes, it was a nice movie, dear. I was like, all right, I'm not getting camaraderie from this old lady.
All right.
Oh, funny.
She's probably thinking like, just wait until you don't get your period anymore. Then you can really live life.
Freedom.
After the hot flashes subside.
Once you get through that.
I just thought that was so funny. I was like, all right, well, bye.
Thanks. We had different experiences in the same room. Cool.
Yeah, we sure did. I liked that the movie was still set in the 60s.
Yes, 1970.
Okay, sorry. I like that it was still set in that time period. I don't think I would have liked it if they had made it like, Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret, taking place in 2023.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I think that sort of thing when something is just so beloved.
Uh-huh.
You really
don't fuck with it, yeah.
You can't muck with it that much. You really have to like be very intentional with like the delineations from the text.
Yeah. Although I guess if you give it a few years, you could technically set it in Florida in like 2025 and it would be like the same same setting.
Snap. Yeah, and that I think that's
not wrong though.
It's not wrong.
Yeah.
No, but it kind of goes back to what they were saying about how it's supposed to be of a time, and that's how it became timeless. And also, I read a couple of articles in like the New York Times, whatever, NPR probably. One of them had some interview with Judy Blume, and she mentioned that, you know, people like wanted to see Margaret like, you know, go through menopause or, you know, do these other stages in her life, and she was like, no, Margaret, it will always be 12. Like,
yeah,
she's 12, and she's.
And she says at the end of the documentary that she's done writing long books because she's at the point of her life now where she wants to go outside and see the world and like, you know, experience life, because she takes her like years to write these books.
Yeah.
And I'm like, respect.
She's made her contribution to the American literary canon.
I think she, especially at 83, like you can be done.
Yeah.
You can be done.
The woman owns a bookstore in Key West, Florida that sells banned books. Like,
I know. I love that about her.
She's such a badass. Like, Amanda, I hope you do eventually get a chance to watch documentary because she's such a badass.
Really will. I really will.
But no, I love the movie. I think going back to talking about Rachel McAdams, I don't know if I would have cast her, like 12-year-old Colleen thinking back, not rereading the book, would have cast her, but she's perfect.
I mean, she's so good.
Great.
She's also, she's like 47 and she just looks like she's 28.
Wow.
No.
Like, it's just infinitely youthful. Like, she's
44, but yeah, wow.
But like well into her 40s and like, looks so young.
Yeah.
God, Regina George is 44.
Yeah.
crazy.
That's wild.
Because she was like 28. She was like she was almost 30 when she was in Mean Girls. Like, it just amazingly, like, so far removed from being a teenager. But like,
okay, she had to have been like 24. Mean Girls came out in 2020. I don't know if she was 2004.
I feel like she was very old when Mean Girls.
Well, Lindsay definitely Lohan
not was of the age. Yeah.
She's older. She's several years older than Lindsay Lohan, but that's all I kept thinking. I was like, oh my god, she's a cool mom.
She's a cool mom. Love the journey that she went on.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. I loved her relationship with her husband. It's like really nice and again, like they were
Herb,
like fairly equal partners without like, you know, stuffing it down her throat.
Which is in the book, it kind of makes them equal partners too.
Yeah.
There's like more conflict, I think, in the book, especially when it comes to like
her
Barbara's parents.
Yeah,
there's much more conflict and less of a like equal partnership than I think they did in the movie. Like, I think they really explored that relationship and like intentionally wanted to make them more of like,
I agree,
equal partners, or just play that up and like,
I agree, but they also in the book go out of their way to mention how mom can talk dad into doing anything, like buying the car, and she actually like pleads with them, like, please understand where I'm coming from. And then Margaret and the dad both are like, you know, give her a hug and are like, okay, we'll make this work for you or whatever. We'll accept that it's going to happen. I
think like for again, the year 1970, you know.
And you could tell in the documentary when she's starting to talk about how like she hated being a housewife, like she loved having kids but hated being a housewife, and I was like, oh, this is going to end with her getting divorced, and then when they were like, and then she got divorced, and I was like, okay, I can see that. She doesn't really hide her feelings about her first husband.
What blew my fucking mind is that and they were married when she started having like all of this success, and she said she doesn't think he ever read one of her books.
I know, that's nuts.
It's like,
red flag, get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, she did.
Yes.
We'll take all this publishing money with me.
Yep. Back in that day, I'm sure alimony didn't go both ways. So
I'm sure.
Take it all and leave.
Yeah. And just the stuff that she faced as a writer for the subject matter, especially as the 80s hit. She talks about the turning point.
Holy
being
shit.
The election of Reagan and how once the conservatives took over, that's when she got like, one day she got like 700 death threats because she had made it known that she was in support of Planned Parenthood. And she was constantly scared at book signings that somebody was going to come up and shoot her. And I'm like, oh, girl, you're lucky that Republicans had another 10 years before they removed, or 20 years before they removed the assault weapon. The
NRA wasn't that involved in politics just yet.
But she must have had some serious fucking whiplash in 2016.
Yeah. But like, she was, I guess, maybe, I don't know if she's the original like queen of banned books, but like she's certainly up there in like the royal court of people who've had books banned.
It's not just one and it's not just two. It's
right. Where she had like actual like she was on Crossfire arguing with Pat Buchanan. And she kept being like, you're cherry picking it, you're misrepresenting she basically said like, you're taking things out of context, you're trying to scare parents, and like you're taking like small little things and not looking at the bigger aspect of the book. And her last book with was it Bradbury Books or whatever? Her last book with them was the one where she uses the word fucking one time. Wow. And she had to actually have this whole conversation with her editor. And he was like, if you leave the word fucking in, book clubs aren't going to read it. And like, it's gonna be a thing. And she actually like, you know, had heart to heart with her kids and whoever else, like being like, should I change the word? Should I just make it frickin'? Should I just take it out? And then at the end, she was like, you know what? Your kids are out there on the playground saying fucking, fucking, fucking. It's okay if they read this one word. And the character felt so upset in that moment that he did the natural thing, which is to drop an F-bomb. So I'm keeping it in.
Nice.
She's such a badass.
She's such a badass. One of the things, because I saw that part with Pat Buchanan, and he was trying to say, like, Dini is a book about masturbation, and she's like, no, Dini is a book about a girl with scoliosis. And then he keeps going, and at one point she's like, are you hung up on masturbation?
And thus began a lifelong, a decades-long obsession that the right has with people touching themselves.
Yeah.
It sure bothers them what other people do in private. The don't tread on me party is real mad if you make yourself come.
And I do, like, I remember reading Dini for the first time. I don't know if I've read it more than once, but I remember being like a young, like a tween or however old I was when I read it. And I do remember that line, because she doesn't dwell on it. It's just like a line.
It's how
like,
the book
touch myself in my special place.
Opens.
And then it goes on. And I remember that sort of like in my young brain being like, wait, is that what we're talking about? But then the story goes on and you just keep going on and
Yeah.
And now thinking back, it's like, wow, that's like fucking revolutionary.
Well, there was a list. There was yesterday or within the last few days. So you know how Ron DeSantis used a study that had a list of recommended books to be banned behind his like "Don't Say Gay" and like his little authoritarian takeover of Florida, and the list of books finally, like the report came out, and it's wild. Some of the books that are in there, it's like a book on different cultures and how they live. And one picture, picture is of a tribe or an African village of some sort. And there's the buttocks of a little like 2-year-old kid, and they deemed it pornography. And that's why it's on the list. And there's another book where a character is taking a bath in an illustration, and that's pornography. So
that's it. Like the right wing doesn't understand the difference between nudity and pornography, and what that indicates to me is that they are all jacking off at things that should be inoffensive.
It's always projection.
Yeah. Because I see a little kid's 2-year-old bare bottom because he's running around without a diaper, and that's like life, and there's
natural. It's just nature.
It has
life.
No connection to anything whatsoever sexual, but they are the ones that are making that connection for them in their own minds because they're fucking sickos.
I guarantee you, if a 5th grader is going to see, and it's not even a 5th grader, but like let's just say a 5th grader sees a naked butt of a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, you know what they're going to do? They're going to laugh.
Yes,
that's it. They're like, 100%. Ooh, but, ooh. Like, they're not going to be like, oh, this is trying to sexualize me. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
It's all the dumb. It's always the dumbest stuff. But it's crazy, though, just the way that everything, like, is just a giant cycle.
Yep.
We never move too far away.
No, which is very disheartening, to be honest. But the movie.
Anyway.
Yeah.
The movie.
I thought that the actress that played Margaret herself was phenomenal.
So good. All the kids were great. I mean, seriously, everyone
they were all great.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Nancy Wheeler was exactly how I always imagined her to be. Exactly.
Yes. Did you notice another little difference? Is that in the book they had like the same sort of like suburban cookie cutter house.
Oh, and she said, "I live in the bigger house down the street." Yeah.
Which I felt like that was.
I reread her introduction part to like once it got to the point where she said, "Oh, she lived in a house that looked like mine." I was like, "Wait a second, does she not say that line?" Yeah.
But I thought that was a good change too. That was fun.
Yeah, but it's like I like how they sort of found coloring and like beefed up these characters by like finding little details in the book, like the little thing about not picking out the furniture and how like that became a much bigger plot point into developing the mother character in the film. And it's like that came from the source text, like it was there.
Yeah.
And it just, like just finding those little like it was just very clever. Like it sort of you could tell that there was a lot of love and like reverence for the story and sort of the development of the movie. Like it wasn't just like, hey, like reboots and like making movies out of books is really popular. Like this was a really popular book. Let's just do it for the money grab. Like clearly it was really
I wonder
how
much
some love, and you felt it.
I should have looked at this beforehand, but I wonder how much Judy Blume consulted. But
did you guys see her cameo?
Yeah, did you catch the cameo?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. She was walking
really,
by
like,
as a neighbor or something, right?
Yes. And I hit for. I was like, that's Judy. I was like,
okay, I forgot to mention that. Yes, I was like, oh my god, she was on screen for like all of one.
I took some notes. I forgot to even look at my
very
notes.
like
I wrote that down,
was it Stan Lee in like the Marvel movies?
It did remind me of Stan Lee.
It was a great sort of homage to that, like just kind of dropped her in, and if you knew what you were looking for, which like let's be real, like everybody in that audience knew what they were looking for.
Everybody knew what they were looking for.
Yeah.
Did you guys like that they changed the storyline that Margaret learned about her grandparents in real time versus in the book she knew about it ahead of time?
She already knew about it. Yeah. I mean, it definitely added to the drama.
Well, and I also don't quite know how you would have, because again, like the sort of narration of the book, I like how they really sort of kept those sort of voiceover moments within the movie of just when she's talking to God. So
I love that they were all word for word from the text too.
Yeah, and I do love when you just sort of dropped in like the actual like dialogue from the book. But yeah, I think like that sort of to make that storyline work, I think they had to tell it that way. Like I don't know how they would have done it otherwise. And I think it also gave that really lovely moment for Rachel McAdams when they're sort of talking about it at like the kitchen, the dining table, and like writing the letters. It just like it added this really lovely mother-daughter moment, I thought.
It was a really good motivation to show like why she would send the letter. Oh, I was just talking to my daughter about this. Maybe it is time. So I was one of the changes I was okay with. I really liked that Sylvia drops in instead of the next morning during it. I thought that was good. Kathy Bates was hilarious.
Oh my god, she's another one that's just like utterly perfection and like everything. I just love Kathy Bates. I love she can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No, and that was great. I did. It mentions, I think in the book anyway, that Margaret's birthday is March 8th, and I was like, oh. That's International Women's Day. I wonder if that was intentional, but I just Googled it, and that didn't start until 1975. So,
maybe they
that's why they
Margaret.
Yeah, maybe that's why they picked the day. I mean,
I'm just gonna go with that.
Yep.
Let's just start that rumor and go with it. You know, one line that I was also secretly glad they kept in when Sylvia shows up and she's like, "This is Mr. Binneman," and he goes, "Rhymes with cinnamon."
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, part of me was like, "Oh, that's got to come from the book." That's.
I know.
I feel like that is a lifted moment.
Yep.
I loved it so much.
It was great.
Yeah, I love this scene in the movie that's not in the book of like Margaret and the grandmother in bed together, like after the day in the theater. Like I thought that was just like such a sweet, like just these moments where they sort of built back in the character development and not the character development, but like the relationship development. It's like such a sweet moment, and you're just sort of like, oh, grandmas are the best.
I love her and her grandma's relationship. It's really
I don't think I can complain about anything they changed for the movie. Honestly, I don't think so. I loved the scene because that also reminded me of like being that age where she and Janie go to buy the teenage softies. And I was like, oh my god.
The Tic Tacs, a great piece of comedic timing. I was a little bummed that like that moment wasn't in the book.
The 5 minutes in the closet, 2 minutes in the closet, whatever it is, 2 minutes in heaven. And spin the bottle. I like that they changed it in the movie that Nancy doesn't get to kiss Phil what's-his-face at all. Because in the book she does.
It was a little. They like definitely streamlined that scene for the movie, which again I think it made sense. It's like in a movie you want to cut down the amount of characters you have. Like I think the way they sort of reframed that scene like worked for me. I was like, when I got to that point in the book, I was like, oh, this is a little more complicated. Like a lot of unnecessary stuff that I was like,
Well, it's funny because like just thinking about what came from Judy Blume's own life, like there was a conversation in the part that I saw of the documentary where she's talking with a friend, and apparently they did have a crush on the same boy at one point in time, and they would both go out with him and then compare notes on like how many kisses each of them had and stuff. So that felt like very much pulled. Judy Blume also said that she herself lied about getting her period when she was in like 6th grade. So I was like, okay, so that little thing about Nancy, like she herself did
that was her
which
first real book. I mean, she had the other ones, but this is the one that this was what her second or third one that she was like, all right, I am writing this book, and based on how
just like really found her
age.
voice.
I love it so much. Anything else with the movie? I'm sure we have a lot of feedback that I'm sure we'll be talking about it, especially when we get to Mets.
No, it's just great. 5 stars. Would see again.
Yeah, totally.
We'll see again.
Yes, I will see it again too. I'm very glad that I also own this book, which I will give to one of my nieces someday. Or my kids.
Yes.
I'll be like, hey, you guys remember those fudge books you liked? Well, I got one for you, 8th grader. 7th grader, 6th grader, whatever she's in. I love that so she had said in the documentary that she never wanted to really base any of her characters on her kids to not invade their privacy, but her kids were much older when she wrote the Fudge books, and she based a lot of it on her son, but he was like early 20s and like dating at the time. So everyone he dated would just be like, oh, so I'm dating Fudge? So when I told Jay that, he was like, but did he really eat the turtle? And I was like, I don't think they talk about that in the documentary. That might just be fiction.
Let's hope so.
But anyway, let's take a quick break, and then we will come back and do feedback. All right, we're back. We're ready to hear what everybody else thought about the movie. Are you there, audience? It's time for feedback. I know. The joke didn't work the second time. We're going to start off with a voicemail from Maggie. Here we go.
Hey, Amanda, Shandy, and Colleen. It's Maggie with my Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret book feedback, because I have not had a chance to watch the movie. I hope to watch it before the episode comes out, or I will wait and watch it because I really do want to watch the movie. So I had never read the book until just recently, which is really weird because I love Judy Blume. I read all the Fudge books, and actually, like, one of my favorite books from a kid is a Judy Blume. It's called Just As Long As We're Together. It's about 3 friends. I actually have it downstairs. I've been thinking about rereading it since I read Margaret and the sequel. So I don't know how I never read Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I guess because I wasn't waiting on my period to start, because it started when I was like 10. So like, I guess I was probably more the person like Laura, the character, you know, in Margaret's class. That probably was more me than Margaret. So that may be why I never read it, but I really enjoyed it. I really thought it was interesting how Margaret was kind of searching for her faith, and her parents were sort of kind of not there. It was just, I really enjoyed the book. I was really glad to read it. It was a very quick read. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, I just liked the friendships, and, you know, teenage girls are fun, and you put yourself back in that headspace, which, I mean, yeah, I don't want to be a teenage girl again. It's kind of bonkers and crazy. But so yeah, I have heard really good things about the movie. Excited to see that, and can't wait to hear what you guys think. I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Maggie, we are on the same page.
Here.
About Just As Long As We're Together also. So, yes.
I don't remember reading that one.
It's worth reading.
Well, I think now I'm going to pull up the Libby app and see what they have for Judy Blume. And, you know.
And have some fun.
Have some fun. This beat is sick. Anyway, sorry. Yes, I did a Lady Gaga quote. Sorry. Maggie, I'm with you with being brought back to the headspace.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for the feedback. I can't wait to hear what you thought about the movie, which I guess we should mention now. We have already recorded, so we're not recording together again until Tuesday, June 6th, is it? we actually pre-recorded already 2 episodes with the Real Weird Sisters. So stay tuned for those over the next couple of weeks. And then we will be back on June 6th. So you have a couple of weeks to see the movie and get your feedback in. Anybody out there listening to this? All right. Our next bit of feedback is a very long email from Matt, which makes me a little nervous that we are not going to agree again. I've got a little anxiety, Matt, I admit.
I know, because saying they were both awesome. I loved them, and I'm sure you all did too. Doesn't take.
Doesn't take several paragraphs.
Oh my god! I can't. Okay.
Oh boy.
Let's just get to the email and hear what he has to think.
Okay. Matt writes in with AYTGIMM feedback, which took me a second, but it's Are You There, God? It's me, Margaret.
Hi, Gim.
Again.
Hey, Broads. It may be hard to believe, but I don't remember reading any Judy Blume growing up. Maybe there was a stupid, I don't want to read girl books bias that I've obviously outgrown, so I decided to check out the audiobook of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret in preparation for this month's special show. I can't say I got a whole lot out of it, however. Who gives a fuck? The book isn't really for me, but I'm glad it exists and has touched countless readers in the other half, in the over half a century since it came out, as well as
Holy shit!
Yeah,
has it been?
Yeah.
Putting it that way, yeah. I know the
80,
1970s was not 30 years ago. Turns out it was actually 50 years ago.
80, 90, 100.
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah, half century. So yeah.
Plus 3.
Well, yeah, plus 3.
Let it sink in. Just let it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's gonna come in a few waves. Just let it wash.
Exactly.
I kind of feel like somebody like did that thing where like, you know, put like something cold on my head and it's like now like creeping down.
Mm-hmm.
Just let it wash over you like the orgasms in Forever. Matt says
doesn't feel that good though.
No,
I'm not.
Different kind.
It's not going bottom up, it's going up down, and that doesn't feel great.
Which is just never the same. It's just not the same feeling.
No. Always go bottom up.
Always go bottom up.
The one time you can go ass to mouth. You're all welcome. I'm very warm right now.
Oh boy. Anyway, what was Matt saying?
Matt was saying the book isn't really for me, but I'm glad it exists and has touched countless readers in the over half a century since it came out, as well as helped establish what eventually became YA. Plus, anything to piss off the banned books assholes.
Yes.
I gotta say, Matt, this is starting out strong.
Yes.
I also saw the film, which I loved. Okay. All right. It just shows.
It was a nice film, dear.
It was a nice film.
It just shows how timeless and universal the themes of the book are. While I wasn't a tween girl, I also wondered about when I would hit those milestones of puberty, compared myself to other guys, how they were doing, trying to figure out tricks to jumpstart those changes and believing the kids who were lying about the changes in some cases. Not to mention all the other topics like religion and figuring out deeper meaning in life for the first time. The film covers a lot of ground and does so well. Abby Ryder Fortson does a great job as Margaret, and to make us all feel old, Heath Ledger has been dead longer than she's been alive.
You shut your whore mouth.
That's an interesting.
That's a weird choice to place us in time.
Well, we have talked a lot about Heath Ledger in some of our previous episodes on special. Well, I mean, 10 Things I Hate About You.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Way to bring it back home.
Heath Ledger died in 2007, right? And she was born in 2018, March 14th, almost on the same birthday.
Wait, not 2018.
Wait, no, she can't have been born in 2018.
No, sorry. 2008. She was in Ant-Man and the Wasp in 2018.
Okay.
Okay.
That matters a little bit.
She's young, but
the most mature 3-year-old I've ever seen. Actually, not even 3 much. She'd be like 6.
She even beats Alex.
Yeah.
Speaking of the topic of God, Alex is very like he has his opinions and it's hard to change them, which we're working on, not like to stifle him, but like, you know, some things that, you know, I'm like, you're incorrect. And you know, you're going to go to school and people are, you know, not like the equivalent of like the earth is flat kind of stuff, you know, like 5-year-old stuff where I'm like, you're wrong, but okay, good for you for thinking of this through. But one of the thing is he is convinced that God, even though we go to church a few times a year, right? Like very infrequently, but he's convinced that God is a woman.
Love it.
And he will fucking,
he's not wrong about that.
Yeah.
He will throw down. He had a fight with my mom at Good Friday Mass. During Good Friday Mass, I believe. Or thereabouts.
I love this for him.
Over whether or not God was a boy or a girl. And he kept insisting God is a girl. And my mom was like, no, God's a boy. And he was like, no, God is not a boy. God is a girl. And my children yesterday morning were fighting about whether God was a boy or a girl at the breakfast table. And it was so earnest and cute that I didn't say anything. And then finally I stepped in and was just like, and I hadn't even read or seen the movie yet because it's happened before both of those. But like, I was like, guys, God is in your heart and it can be a boy or a girl or a turtle or whatever you want, you know, your God figure to be like. You know, I was trying to be like, you're both right. I was trying to do the like, you're both right kind of thing. Like, and then, you know, I give my little speech and Alex is like, yeah, but God is a girl. I'm like, sure.
I mean, there is a lot of like progressive Protestant churches that now say like mother, father.
Yeah.
Instead of prayers, instead of like, you know, and sort of like, yeah, we don't really know.
You see, Catholics can't do that because mother would then just be the Blessed Mother Mary.
Right.
Like they were already kind of covering it, but they still kind of made her like subjugate to God. They were like, we know that we probably should have 2 people, but like, let's just make one slightly less.
Like we gotta have multiple figures for people to pray to because they're coming from polytheistic religions.
Right. It's like
we want to, you know, put ours on top of theirs, so we have to throw in a few saints and like a female figure
that they understand, that things
right. It's like, you know,
the calendar.
See how pagan we can make Catholicism.
No, yeah, exactly.
Like we'll keep that one.
Like they hit like the year 100 AD, and they were like, or BCE or CE, whatever it's called now. They hit like year 100, and they like had a focus group, and they were like, "How do you feel about like just having God as a man?" And you know,
God character working for you.
Somebody was just like, what? And they were like, what if you worshipped his mother?
Better, worse? How does that feel for you? Just try it on. Think about it. You know,
and then you know,
right
because
now, think about it.
Because you know the focus group was like, you know, 99% men. They were like, but she could be a virgin bride. Right. And then they were all like, we're in.
And then we're into this idea.
Wait, and the other one, she's a whore? Okay, we're good. Let's do this.
Spitballing.
We're just yeah. And they were so lazy. They're like, we'll call them all Mary.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever, you know.
And if we run out of Marys, we're going to call them all, the rest of them, Teresa. Anyway, so sorry.
They're like, wait, you want to, she's supposed to suckle him? That's like a thing. Okay, because that's there were sculptures of that in Egyptian religions. Okay, we'll take that wholesale and make it a
it actually is kind of crazy when you like look into the history of religions and how everything kind of borrowed from everything else.
Some more than others, but yes.
Yeah, but like
still, Christianity walked in and they're like, there's this whole established religion called Judaism. We're gonna take their book and we're just gonna like add some chapters and vilify them and call it a day.
And then we're gonna cancel a bunch of the first book.
Take the part you like. It's a steal. It's like the evolution of breakdancing. It's like you take the parts you like and you flip it and you reinvent it and it's a whole new move.
Yeah, and then modern day evangelicalism was like, we're gonna take the parts we like. We're gonna cancel the whole Jesus was a good person thing. Mm-hmm. We're gonna keep the part about how he hated everybody. He wanted to smite everybody.
Yes,
and you know, America. So we got to put that in there.
Yes,
got to have that part in there.
Right?
Jesus wasn't big on like countries and like, you know, nationalism, but that's fine. Forget
Jesus
that.
also wasn't really big on a lot of things that Christians do nowadays.
Yeah. Jesus was not big on capitalism. Give away your possessions and follow me. Yeah.
Or judging
But whatever.
people. That was like a whole ass commandment sermon thing.
Yeah, but some of them you win some, you lose some.
Anyway, sorry. Matt continues. I'm gonna edit a lot of that.
Well, getting back to religion, he said not to mention all the other topics like religion and figuring out deeper meaning in life for the first time, which is, I think, what brought us down this tangent. Yeah. Kelly Truman Craig brings the book and its straightforward, compassionate, and non-patronizing ideas to life. Any issues I have fall more into nitpicks. I can definitely see Amanda showing this film and giving this book to Eden, and also Colleen doing the same with her sons to help them understand.
I'm going to read it to them.
Those are both things that you all said.
Nice. Yeah.
I also recommend the documentary, but I'm sure Shandy probably talked about that, and I'm late for the 8:30 deadline. Hey, Colleen talked about it too because she actually finished it. Judy Blume, but I will be finishing it.
But you got to the Pat Buchanan part, so you're really close to the end.
Exactly, yeah. Judy Blume just seems like a genuinely good person, and it makes her foaming at the mouth critics, including classically trained shithead Pat Buchanan, the devil, look all the more ridiculous. It'd be like calling Mr. Rogers an asshole. It is too bad the film is underperforming at the box office. Oh, I didn't know that.
Chalk it up to coming out. Anything that's not a Marvel movie is probably underperforming at the box office.
Even the Marvel movies are underperforming.
Right.
Wow.
Guardians isn't, but Ant-Man underperformed.
Well, to be fair, it cost me like almost $40-50 to go to the movie. So whatever,
Jeez.
Several people's tickets. That's Brooklyn.
Crazy. Yeah.
Because I had to get the bougie popcorn and I had to get the
you do. And you know what?
It was life choices again.
Did you go to Alamo?
I don't need to condemn myself here. I didn't go to. I went to Nighthawk, which is like Brooklyn's version of Alamo.
Okay, because Alamo does that ghee butter, and it is worth the calories and the price.
Okay, no, I know Alamo popcorn. Nighthawk is even better. Sorry, everybody else in the world, but Nighthawk popcorn, man, it's where it's at.
I'm so jealous right now.
It's so good. It's so good. Next time you come visit, we'll go see a movie.
Oh yes, let's do that. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself because Shandy just wants to finish this.
Yeah, it's true. We're getting late. I gotta go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
I have to get up extra early tomorrow. Okay. Chalk it up to coming out during a busy time. Not to mention, some people may still be reluctant to go back to the movies. I hope it finds the audience it deserves to have. See, I can like a female coming of age movie. Now, this is where I would bring up some problematic part of the movie or some weird fact, but directly I don't have much. Benny Safdie, Margaret's dad, is one of the filmmakers with his brother behind Good Time and Uncut Gems, and one of the producers has been facing some accusations, but that's it. Some people got all upset because Rachel McAdams did a photo shoot with hair under her arms, and I'm sure I can guess that you two would give them a big old fuck you in the face.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm sure some of those guys would gladly have her put them in a headlock, assuming she gave that pond scum the time of day. Unrelated to this, but I totally forgot during the N&T talk 2 months ago to mention Melanie Griffith's mom, Tippi Hedren, and her husband were into some Tiger King shit in the 70s, even filming a movie with actual lions of tigers who attacked the cast and crew regularly. But that's a story for another time. Oh my God.
Whoa.
And that's where he leaves it. Matt.
Just like, ran out of time.
That's actually kind of like a Tiger King episode where literally just the escalates every single time.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I'm glad that we basically agree.
Yeah. Did you guys all feel like I actually did think that a lot of this movie had Now and Then vibes?
Oh, I don't know if I made that connection, but I don't like this. I don't disagree with the assessment. I don't think I made that connection myself.
It felt like it had that same like kind of filter. It opens up with like them doing the summer camp stuff, and
there's certainly some real nostalgia, and it matches it toe for toe with like the sweet soundtrack.
Oh yes,
really some like great 70s bops.
It doesn't have a teenage Brandon Fraser though.
It does not. So it does have that against it. No film is perfect.
Yeah.
What can you do? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, though, Matt, for that email. I think we answered a lot of it as we went along, much to Shandy's chagrin. Thank you, though. I'm glad you enjoyed the movie. Okay.
All right. Well, we got one more email from our dear friend Mandy. Are you there? ... I read Are You There, God as a preteen. I remember highlights of it, so decided to reread before seeing the movie. I reread it a couple weeks before the movie and got Maddie, now 13 as of last weekend. Happy birthday, Maddie! Her own copy to read before seeing it. She got through chapter 5. She says she will finish it, but was okay to see the movie. The book, hey, I'm telling you, reading half the book, seeing the movie, and then finishing the book is the way to go. But that's just me. The book and the movie were delightful. I loved the relationship between Margaret and Sylvia. Yes, agreed. I thought the mom character was much better in the movie. Agreed. I could see moving to a new town and wanting to join all the PTA committees, only to then regret it when making 10,000 stars. Yeah, that was probably the one thing that, like, I sort of get the character, like, building of the character, but I feel like that the star storyline just felt really kind of like unnecessary. I could have done without it and like not missed it.
I think that it actually went to show her motivation at the end, where she was like, I would love to, but I just don't want to.
Yeah, agreed. I don't know if
it gave her something to do during the scenes where it was like developing her character. But other than that, like,
like it was fine. It didn't bother me, but like I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Seeing how they kept true to the book with Margaret trying out different religions on her own was great. If I was her, I would have picked to go with Janie every week. Yeah, I probably would have too. Seeing the movie with Maddie was so wonderful. She and I both laughed so much at the we must increase our busts.
Which was exactly like I always imagined it.
Yeah, that felt pretty on point. Randomly she'll start doing it, and only I get the reference. I love that for you guys. Maddie does disagree about the girls wishing for their periods. She would be happy to never have gotten hers. I'm sure I could go on and on, but my words would most likely have already been said by one of you three in the past hour. Or hour and a half, 2 hours. Who's keeping track anymore? So my last note is Nancy is a bitch. Oh, Mandy. What a sentiment to go out on.
I feel like we're in Stranger Things with all this Nancy talk.
I know, right? Well, like Nancy Wheeler, like, isn't that like the character in Stranger Things?
Yes.
Isn't she Nancy Wheeler?
Is this one Nancy Wheeler?
Yeah.
That's her last name?
Yes.
Holy shit.
I think Shania and I both just took to Google. We were like, Nancy
I took to old school Google, aka
the book. Yeah, I will double check that. I love how I really emphatically said that. And I'm like,
okay, Nancy Wheeler is definitely... No, it's Nancy... Holy shit. They're both Nancy Wheeler.
Ah!
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
Because that was my point of reference. I was like Stranger Things?
Wow.
Do you think the Duffer Brothers read this book and knew? Why has nobody pointed this out until now?
Yeah, I don't know.
Why have we gotten like 8 years into Stranger Things and not recognized this until right now?
Well, you know what? Here's what I would say to Mandy. Nancy Wheeler gets better, apparently. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know.
So, does that mean Gretchen or Margaret or Janie are Barb?
Oh, Gretchen is totally a Barb.
Barb?
Yeah, Gretchen's a Barb. That's
yeah.
Wow.
Thanks, Mandy, for the email.
Anyway, thank you so much, Mandy. I am excited to hear what happens, what Maddie thinks when she finishes reading the book. So you have a couple of weeks to like let her finish it and let us know. All right. On that note, everyone, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for all the feedback. we're very excited to talk about this, as you can tell. Thank you all so much. Thank you to the patrons, especially the ones that contribute at a certain level, and that be Eckhart Rigner, Maggie the Magnificent, Joanne with the Plan, and Ed the Creepy Poopy Head Mailman. If you have any feedback, thebroadcasters3@gmail.com, or give us a call 331-276-2373. We would love, I feel like I speak for everyone when I say we would love to talk about this more. So we, as of right now, and you'll hear this, in the next week's episode, maybe, where we do not have an announcement for what we are going to talk about in June. So I don't know. We may take June off. That may be to be continued. But
something else. I feel like something always pops up. We'll
Something always pops up. Exactly. I want to watch Yellow Jackets regardless, I think.
Yeah. So. It's just not a show that can be rushed. I feel like if we all try and binge through it, it's just not going to be good for anybody's mental health.
That's a good point. Anyway, all right. Thanks, though, everybody, for that. Thank you, Shandy, for staying up late. I have a great trip, both of you, and I'll miss you, and I will see you all in June. It's gonna be great.
It'll be great. It's like we're going away to summer camp, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna hear about everybody's summers.
I wonder who's going to send a postcard saying they got it.
Oh boy, I hope it's me.
Yeah. No, seriously though, you guys better send me postcards saying I got it. That's all.
I feel like now I have to.
I know. I love that.
You have to. All right. On that note, everybody, thank you so much. We will see you soon. On that note, my name is Colleen.
My name is Amanda.
And I'm Shandy.
Peace out, everybody.
Bye.